Alright guys, this week on Motortopia, we're here at Exclusive Offsets in Ocala, Florida for a modern Tahoe makeover. We're working with our buddies at Toyo Tires, McGaughys suspension, and we got a set of wheels I can guarantee you've never seen. Let's go. Alright, so on this week, we're going to go over some super basic thoughts and principles when adding a new set of custom wheels to your vehicle. Now we know this is a custom channel, and we know some people have some different questions on the right size diameter, how to jack up your car properly, how to install the wheels, and even how to check the brakes before you go and add a new set of wheels. First off, this is a 2015 Chevy Tahoe, and this truck originally came with 22-inch wheels. So the first thing you're going to want to do is decide what size wheels you're going to end up going with. On this truck, we're going with a 24. So we're going to need a different size tire than original. Now you can just replace the original wheel and use the tire, or replace the wheel and get a new same size tire. But since we're going bigger, we're going to need a bit of a thinner tire. So the best way to figure out the exact size tire that you're going to need is head over to the Motortopia website. There's a tire size calculator on there. You read this size tire right here, 285, 45, 22. You input that into the calculator, and then you'll start figuring out the different sizes that are available to where it's going to be the exact same overall size. And the reason you want to do that is so your speedometer is the same, your gas mileage is the same, and you don't have any rubbing on any bumps or any turns. And we got the opportunity to launch this all new set of Fitipaldi large SUV wheels. These are the Mesh 369 wheels, all aluminum alloy. They've been heat treated for maximum strength. They're an SUV mesh wheel with a floating center cap. Very cool. They're available in premium gloss black and mirror finish. And as you can see, after using the tire size calculator, we line these up. And it's the exact same overall size, overall height, even though this is a 24-inch wheel with a thinner tire. This is a 22-inch wheel with a thicker tire. So, first thing we're going to do is jack up the car, get the wheel taken off, and then we're going to check the brakes, and then we'll swap these things out. Alright, so this truck from the factory uses a 7/8 socket, and this is an impact socket. So you want to make sure the socket fits on there nice and snug. It doesn't have any wobbling, so it doesn't round out that original bolt. And also, before we jack this up, we're going to crank these things a little bit with a big socket. And we have an old jack handle laying around that we like to use for a breaker bar. But it's best to break these things loose a little bit before you hit them with an impact and before you jack them up. So we're just going to break these things loose real quick, and then we'll get the jack under there. Alright, so I got the front wheel broke loose, so now I'm going to go ahead and put the jack under there. And as you can see, these trucks have a full frame on them. So you want to put the jack right on the frame rail to make sure that you're not on the body, you're actually on the frame. And you can see the little teeth on the jack. Make sure those teeth go around the frame so it's properly secured. So nice and secure. And we'll go ahead and jack it up. All right, we're going to jack this up. We're only going to do one wheel at a time, so we don't have to worry about using jack stands all the way around the vehicle. We are going to keep the jack underneath the truck, but we are going to put a jack stand under there, just in case this jack, for some reason, the hydraulic ram goes out or something like that on it. We just want a little bit of safety. So we're going to put that jack stand underneath the frame, right next to the jack, just for some extra security. All right, so now we got these lug nuts broke loose. We got the jack stand underneath there. It's lifted up. The wheel is free, which is why we wanted to break those loose before we jacked it up, because we wouldn't be able to, it would just spin. So now we're going to get these lug nuts off with our impact gun. If you guys have an impact gun, you know it goes left and right, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Don't forget the basics. So we're going to take these lug nuts off, and we're going to inspect these brakes real fast. All right, so before we put these new wheels on, we're definitely gonna wanna check these brakes. You always wanna check your brakes anytime you're changing the wheels. So you're just gonna hold a flashlight in there. You're gonna see the pad. If you can see the pad, which I can see, you might not be able to see because I got a LED light and it's blinking a little bit. But if this pad looks good and this rotor looks good, you're good to go. If there's any solid grooves in here or that pad is really thin, you're gonna wanna replace those before putting on your new wheels. This truck, it's pretty good. It's probably only about 40% wear, so we'll probably have to replace these within a year, but for now, they're good to go. All right, so on these wheels, these have a floating center cap on them. They pop off from the back, but as you can see, where the lug nuts go, these factory lug nuts, these things aren't gonna work. So a lot of the times when you have an aftermarket wheel, you're gonna have to replace the lug nuts. Now these lug nuts aren't going to be seen. They're gonna be behind the wheel cap. So we just got some basic acorn lug nuts off of Amazon. These things are very inexpensive, only 25 bucks for a set. They fit in there perfectly. They're acorned and curved on the edges, so they fit inside the lug holes nice and tight. So these will be the perfect setup. They don't have locks on them, but we're not really concerned about that. But if you want, you can get locking lug nuts also. But these are just gonna be regular factory replacement lug nuts that'll sit behind the cap. And as you can see on these wheels, it's had a lot of holes in it. This has 12 holes because this is dual drilled for 6 lug. This will fit Chevy and Ford and Dodge. Some wheels are like that, some wheels aren't. A lot of times when they have a center cap, they are. These are, so when we go to set them up on there, we just have to figure out which ones are perfect for this truck, bolt them on. So we're getting ready to bolt on our new wheels. And another thing you really need to pay attention to, if you have a nice set of tires, like these are Toyos, these tires are directional. So if you can see, these arrows point to the direction that they should spin. And since we have both faces here, these spin this way, these are spinning forward, so these are a driver's side. And when you turn these around, these will be a passenger side spinning forward. So before you bolt your wheels on, make sure these tires are directional. If they're directional, they're going in the right direction. And also you can see, sometimes on the outside of it, it'll actually say this is a left-hand tire and it has arrows pointing to the direction of the spin. All right, so time to put the new wheel on. And like I said, these are multi-drilled wheels. So we just have to, when we set it up there, make sure we've got the correct bolt pattern in place. And you'll know because it's only gonna go on one way. The other bolts won't line up. So if you have them lined up and it goes on, it's solid. The center clears our original hub. It sits nice and flat on the hub in the back, so we're good to go. We're ready to put the lugs on. Our 6 lug nuts here, we got our new socket. This socket is a different size, the original socket. So what you want to do, make sure you do this. You do not impact these things on right away. You put them on hand tight first. So we're gonna put each one on individually in a diagonal pattern. So we're gonna go from the bottom to the top and then all the way around. And we're gonna put these on hand tight before we crank them on because we don't want them cross-threaded. All right, so now that we got the lug nuts hand tight, we're gonna get our impact gun. We're gonna start from the bottom and go diagonal in a star pattern. This way the wheel sits on there tight and flush and it doesn't get tightened too much on one side than the other. We'll give it one last crank, make sure they're all on there good. Alright, so now we know these are on there nice and solid. Yes, you can get a torque wrench and you can really torque them down to spec, but as most of you know, these impact guns, they're strong. It's going to be on there solid. You're not going to have any problems. This isn't a race car. This is a daily driver. So as long as they're cranked on there, this is all your local tire shop's gonna do. So we're not really concerned about torquing to spec. We're just cranking them on, making sure it's nice and solid, not going anywhere. And then we're gonna spin the wheel around to make sure there's no clearance issues. We don't have any spokes hitting any brakes. We don't have any rubbing, any scraping on the backside of the calipers or the control arms. This is the exact size that we need. Fitipaldi Wheels designed these specifically for SUVs, so we know this is the right setup. So, time to put that center cap on. Okay, the wheel is on nice and tight, no clearance issues, so the final piece of the puzzle is putting on this center cap. Generally, you want to kind of pay attention to where the center cap goes, but since this is a floater, you don't have any concerns. We're just going to pop this on there. Boom, you're all done. All right, now we got this on there, so let's get this thing jack stand out, get the jack out, set it down, and we'll finish off the rest of them. Ooh, that looks good. All right, so we got the driver's side done. We flipped it around. We're gonna do the passenger side. We're gonna start with the back. The back is the same basic principle as the front. We're gonna crank them loose, jack it up, take the wheel off, put the new wheel on, check for any clearance issues, check the brakes, but we should be all good to go. So let's roll. The back wheel on, and before we set it down, same thing. We just want to run our hands across the back, make sure there's no clearance issues, everything is nice and clean. As we know, Fitipaldi designed these wheels for SUVs, but we don't know what kind of wheels you have. So we just recommend running your hands behind there, making sure they don't hit the shock or anything else back there. On this one, we're good to go. So we're gonna set it down, put the cap on. All right, so we got all 4 wheels on there. Everything clears, everything looks great. Now, a few last minute things you want to do before you start hitting the road. One, we highly recommend you remove the tire stickers. Now, we know a lot of people don't do this. A lot of dealerships don't do this, but in the very unlikely opportunity that you are driving in the rain and you have to hit the brakes real hard and that tire sticker just happens to be down, you're not going to have traction. So we really recommend taking these tire stickers off. Even though when you're driving it looks like you got new tires with the stickers on them, we recommend taking them off. Last observation, as you can see, these are factory replacement wheels and tires. All size, height, and tire, thanks to the tire calculator on Motortopia. But as you can see, these factory Tahoes, they have a really big gap in the front, so or in the rear. So we're gonna drive it around a little bit, and then after about a week, we're gonna come back in here. We have a McGaughys Rear leveling kit. It's a very simple kit, even for these LTZs. It's gonna bring the truck down about an inch or two, make it sit level all the way around, but it's not gonna affect the magnetic ride and all that really fancy electronic stuff on this vehicle. Also, right when we leave here, the first thing we need to do is go back to the wheel and tire shop and have them program these sensors. These are TPMS sensors. So inside the cab, if your tire is going low, you get an alert. That's what these are. We replaced these with factory original ones. So we need to get those programmed for this truck. But other than that, she looks good. She clears. Let's hit the road.